This episode of Speakers of Eidolon is made possible by our generous patrons. Special thanks to our supreme and master speakers, Circa Barrakiel, Remy Asalia, Omiji Cat Comet, Erisu Yamakawa, Arcadia Lunashine, Dramavian, Alex Franco AV, Nina Grimstarter, Casey Schaefer, Dimos, Lily Black, Hans Grenade, Sapa Chakwatol, Faris Gentoru, Cletus Oreo, Quick Levin, Luke Leonatrell, Ceres, Icy Lee, Lyria Rain, Pamela Isley, Umbral Wind, Naive Arano, Celeste Rascris, Elenriel Maximus, Edwin, Bob CC, Fabson Voidworm, Rami Maverick, Code Red No, Mira Miri, Winebow Brood, Bay Barbalay, Kaiser Regina, Usura Akari, AJ Brainswordsome, Suno Shikano, Gideon Ura, Buster Gearhold, Asuta Starbreeze, Nat Clay, Camille Grineau, Huskies, and Face on Masher. Support the show and become a patron today at patreon.com/SpeakersXIV. Thank you.
This is Speakers of Eidolon.
Good evening, Eorzeans. Welcome to Speakers of Eidolon, episode 239. I am Lukiel Bravestone, and I'm joined today by Georgi Wiston and Rollo Des.
Yay!
That frame. Ooh.
Let's see if we can snap Georgi into his frame. Cannot do that.
He can't be contained.
I hate that.
SCP breach, watch out.
Well, I don't know why yours is such a wild card. It's like sometimes it just fits, and I also can't seem to find you. There you go. Let's see.
You can't find me. I'm right here.
Oh.
Let me
Well,
snip.
trim a little bit on the other side.
Yeah, let's snip a little. Oh, more.
And a little bit off the top.
Little snip. Here we go. There we go. I see that. I'm a little out of it too.
Oh. Use a little trim too.
Yeah, snip. There we go. Perfect. Welcome to episode 239 of Speakers of Eidolon. It is March 27th, 2021. It's the last episode in March. It's Saturarch, which we never say these things in the podcast, but there you go. I use the system. Main topics today. We have multiple interviews today. I don't know if I should tease all of them, but two of them are on the overlay. So look, the part 2 of the localization team interview that we started on last week, and an interview with Naoki Yoshida are guaranteed today. 5.5's website has been updated, and there is lots of news about the patch. We'll talk about it when we get to it, and we'll of course try to squeeze in a mog mail or two at the end. So make sure you catch that. Stay tuned for the post show. We'll be answering questions from the Syndicate. In channel updates, I have two things. Cerulean Reactor will become available to patrons after the show, and next week for everyone else. And
this one's episode 2, right?
Episode 2, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And Core will most likely be out on Tuesday, so that is whenever that is, that's Tuesday. No, sorry. The date is 30th or 31st, whichever one. Okay, there you go. This week in 14, what have you done, Georgi?
What have I done? I have been grinding a couple more esoteric tomes of whatever they're called. What are they called again? The Moogle tomes? I always forget the exact terminology that they use for them.
I've already
It's not
forgotten.
mythology, right?
No.
Mythology.
No, it's not mythology.
Esoteric?
I was going to say esoteric again.
Don't tell us.
No,
We're gonna struggle.
esoteric-
Let us struggle.
Esoteric is Esoteric is the regular
you
tombstones
told
of
us.
esoterics.
Yeah,
Thank you
there
very
we
much,
go.
chat.
Yeah.
And after 84 years, I have the T-Rex mount on my main at least. I need to get it on my Ragnarok character, and then I'll work on getting enough tomes for, I guess, the Blissful Kamui.
Okay. Rollo?
I've been trying to finally plan to decorate the FC house. My FC
Ooh.
house, not the speaker's FC house. Just because I haven't done it in over a year. Are you playing with your lights? Are you okay?
One of the lights is not responding to my commands. Anyways, yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to make my house look pretty, but I fucking suck at decorating. I'm so awful. I'm not a good interior designer in real life or in the video game. Do you see what I have behind me? That's a box. I've had that box there since I moved in.
Oh my god,
I don't
you're
know.
right.
I guess it's a decoration now.
Yeah.
But one day because I pretty much have all my crafters maxed out, I'll try and make something that looks presentable. I'll try. Other than that, not too much.
Okay. I haven't done much either. It's just, I think I did subs once this week, which is not enough.
They brought back anything interesting yet?
No. They unlock new routes, which is good, but they all contain shit. I think it's because they're not optimized. I don't think the parts are correct for them. Share, for instance. No. It's Teddy? There's Teddy because it belongs to Mr. Bean. It's Mr. Bean's Teddy. Complicated lore. But Teddy is our smallest or our youngest sub. He's not 80 yet, or 70, whatever the cap is. But it never will be because... No, actually. Okay, yes. I think it's Teddy. No, it's Cher. Sorry. I'm getting this mixed up. It's either Cher or Mr. Bean. No one cares. One of the submarines...
Yeah, talk about the subs.
I love them. They're my babies. One of the subs can only travel to one location at a time because it's so shit. It cannot go at any other range than one. So it's very slow. It's very slow. It has to be Teddy because it's not capped. But there you go. So that's that. I haven't really worked on the relic. I need to work on the relic, but I don't have time. I need to do more. I need to do relic.
I mean, you do have time actually because you have lots of time
to do the relic. Yes, but not time in the day to sit down and actually do them. Also, I kind of don't want to because I have to do Void Arc and
it's easier to just farm in Othard and
that's true. I always forget. It's still fate.
Just force people to join you on stream. That'll make it go.
No, we're not doing
Remember
that.
the days of Eureka where we would just like sit and like literally just shoot the shit and chill?
Yes, I know, but that was in Eureka.
Yeah,
it was different.
See the same thing.
Except we're in an old overworld map that we've been in a million times before, and there's nothing special happening. I don't know.
The viewers will distract you, and the other hosts will distract you too.
I think you think no. I think we tried to get that Eureka thing going in Bosnia. Didn't work. We can never whatever we did in that time cannot.
Well,
be replicated.
It's because in Eureka there's a lot of downtime. In Bosnia there's no downtime.
True. Okay, so I'm slowly. The only times I can make progress on the relic is when we do Alliance Raid Roulettes on stream,
and we get lucky.
Okay. Right. Let's. That's it. That's what we've done in 14 this week. This is probably No, it's going to be like this for a while until April 13th, I guess. That's when things will start picking up again. Let's jump into some recent events because there is a pretty significant thing that's happened that we need to talk about. I am, of course, talking about Why is the frame? What is the logic?
Switch them back in there.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Okay. The 5.5 website has been updated with some new stuff. Well, actually, a lot of stuff. The original 5.5 website just had like this, like a little text box with all the stuff we already knew. Now we have the whole thing, baby. No, we don't have the whole thing, but we have a lot.
So definitely not the whole thing. I'd be a bit disappointed if this was the entirety.
No, but I
of the
will
patch.
say I'm very surprised that all of this is happening before the live letter. Like all of the.
I agree with you there.
The steam has gone out. The steam has gone out of the balloon. I don't think that's what you say. There's not steam in balloons, but you know what? I'm rolling with it. The steam is out of the balloon now when the live letter comes along. Let's have a look at the website. So we've seen this part, Death Unto Dawn.
Peanut head.
Yeah. I wonder how many people noticed that the thumbnail for last week's episode had him just being a peanut head.
It was good, I love it.
All right. As towers rise and darkness falls, Eorzea's players take the stage. Blades poised to meet the final days. Very ominous text at the top here. And then, of course, new story is the first thing here. We've seen this first picture before of all the leaders and the scions at a big table. The way they're... well, I guess they always sit like this. The leaders on the left side and then the scions on the right. I think that's how they were sitting when they got pulled by Graha that time.
Yeah.
Typically, yes.
Yeah. We'll talk about the second picture in a bit, but I'll read the blurb. The Scions have finally succeeded in discovering a cure for tempering, which should prove instrumental in allowing the Eorzean Alliance and the Land's Beast tribes to settle their differences. Prospects of peace may soon fall to ruin, however, as Fandaniel and the Telephoroi scheme to recreate the final days, and ominous towers rise in all corners of the realm. With the servants of chaos amassing at every turn, will the Scions uncover their plot before it is too late?
No, we won't.
No.
Or else the next expansion won't happen. So.
True. Okay. Well, the new picture, which I find to be very funny, is of Estinian and Alphino, and Estinian looks like a fucking monster next to Alphino, who's just the tiniest little boy on the left. They are both Ellison.
Doesn't it look like that one Tyler 1 picture or whatever, where he's standing next to the tall lady, like looking like this or something?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh God. It's been a while since they have talked. I see chat pointing out 3.3. I guess that sounds correct to me.
Yeah, they had a nice dynamic together back in Heaven's Word.
Yeah. So it'll be nice to see them catch up again. Is that
Alphino is 4'9". How freaking tall is Estinian then? Is he like 7'1"?
Yeah, what is this size difference? It's also like he also looks bigger, if you know what I mean. It looks like he's been like someone cut him out in Photoshop and just made him larger. Like he looks a little off here. The dimensions are so massive.
Let's go. I'm gonna look
tall
up
is Estinian
height right now. Estinian height 79.5 inches. I don't know what that is in any meaningful measurement.
79.5 inches. Why can't they give it in feet and inches? At least I can.
That's 201 centimeters. That doesn't sound right, does it?
201 centimeters.
How much? What
2
was
meters.
What was it in inch? What was it in inches? Rollo?
79.5. So
6'5".
Oh, it's about 6'4".
He's 6'5". I refuse to believe he's that short.
I don't know if you noticed in this game, people are actually a lot shorter than you think. Like the max reminder height is like, I don't even think it's 6 feet tall.
Yeah. Well, there you
go. I know that my character is like significantly shorter than I am in real life, and I'm not exactly tall.
All right, so that's that. We'll see more of this horrible size difference in the MSQ. That's not new armor, right? This is just the armor he had in the...
No, that's the old relic armor from Realm Reborn.
Stormblood.
Stormblood, sorry. Yeah.
Right.
One day, Alphino and Ella's able to go through it. Ella's in puberty.
That must hurt to have your bones just get that big that quickly.
Yeah.
It's like
Consider they're already 16.
Yeah. All right. New challenges, dungeons and trials. Pagelthan is a dungeon. Though the herding of livestock keeps the nomadic Amalja constantly on the move across the sweeping plains of Pagelthan, the permanent settlement of Zolmak offers respite for the weary and a venue for gatherings, both political and social. Yet without intervention, it may not long be so. Looks pretty cool. It's very Amaljan, which of course makes sense, but
weird note to end this expansion on.
I agree.
Yeah.
The expansion's done with the story, but it's weird.
Yeah,
it's weird.
It is a weird last dungeon. Well, this might be a red herring. Pagelthan might have like something in it that's very epic. I like at the last end of it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's more to this.
Yeah.
So.
As it is right now, it's looking like the first final dungeon of an expansion to not have Garleans in it.
Ooh, true. Well,
I think there's going to be Garleans.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be Garleans too.
Yeah.
There will be a Garlean in there somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, there is the Garlean Tower though in the background. This is one of the boss. Well, I don't know if it must be a boss.
I think it's a boss.
Yeah.
Is this a reference to a Final Fantasy?
I don't know, maybe it's like a rip.
It's a reference to a
Yeah, I just have to know.
It's either a RIP 12 or 13 model or something.
Yeah. Just waiting for chat to like assist, because otherwise, someone's going to point it out in the comments. So far, no one in chat is saying anything, so I'm going to assume that this.
It does look like. I agree with chat that it does look like the S rank model from As Is La, but I think it might share it.
Yes.
Let's see.
Okay. It
S-rank.
does not look like it is a specific Final Fantasy one. So that's good. Let's talk about this gear, which I will say is at least in theme with the dungeon. Like this is
Yes.
We haven't had themed dungeon gear since like early Stormblood. I feel like Stormblood is where we stopped getting themed gear, but I don't remember exactly when it happened.
I think when we stopped doing extra hard mode dungeons, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I think Don Meg has themed gear.
Oh,
I guess
Don Meg and the other one too. What's
yeah. Well, those are. I feel like leveling dungeons are different. Leveling dungeons tend to have more. They should have themed gear. But yeah, endgame ones. Yeah, I mean, it looks Amaljan. You even get like the guy on the right has the thing, the pew on his head.
I hope it's
so
like.
So does the Hrothgar on the left, and that brings up a interesting thing about this gear.
Oh yeah,
the Hrothgar and the Vieira have headpieces.
Oh my god,
that's correct.
We've done it.
I
like the shadowy looking bits on the what I'm assuming is the tanking set in the middle, and the one to the right of it maybe the other. No, that's not the tanking set. I think it's the I think those are the
Hrothgar one is probably the tanking set.
I think the Hrothgar and the Lullafell are wearing like the tanking and the Dragoon sets.
Yes.
Yeah. What's the center one? I think that's like Bard or range physical and Ninja Scouting? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Whatever. I just like the helmets. I think it looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the middle one, the one to the right of the middle and the one on the far right are probably striking ninja and aiming. And then caster and healer, the Vieira and the Catboy.
Okay.
It's not white liqueur.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
you
good.
can have your tits out.
Well, my
Or
tits
your-
will be
your
covered,
abs.
it seems.
Sorry, your abs.
Yeah, your tits are covered as a healer / caster
That's
still.
good. That's good.
Mm.
Like my tits covered.
You get underboob.
A little under boob, yeah, that's true. That can
Mm.
be just as
A lot of-
nice. So
Makes sense
According
and
to
all that.
Twitter, the Vieira is striking.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, remember the ones in the middle have like an eye on the front. Could that be like caster symbols for the Amalja? I feel like that's like mystic. I don't know.
Well, then that would make me think that the ones with like the eye symbol are caster, healer, and ranged. Then,
Yeah. Well, we'll know.
because I
soon
would
enough.
assume
I don't.
that ninja and striking would share gear.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you just look at the screenshot, it just tells
There are
you.
3 sets with the eye. Oh, does it actually?
The in-game. It tells you some of them at least.
Wait, what? Where do you see
I don't
this?
see a healer in this
Go
picture.
to the
Second picture.
second screen. Yeah, second one.
This one? Oh, right. They're wearing it, of course.
Yeah.
So that's the tank,
Mhm.
and that's a ninja in the front. Or
Yeah.
dancer, actually.
I think
Or
it's a
yeah, that's a dancer, isn't it?
yeah, it's a dancer.
She's holding like 2 round. They're very round for to be ninja knives. And I can't.
Is that a samurai in the
It's a
back? doing
samurai. The cat boy is a samurai, I think.
Yeah.
So, well, there you go. All right. There you go, Pagothan. That's the last dungeon of Shadowbringers. Unless they add
Oh,
another
went back
one
in
in 5.5.
We're going back to a realm reborn for it.
Yes, yes.
Back where it all began.
Which kind of is a bit of the theme, isn't it? Like we're wrapping up around or the storyline that started there, so makes sense, I guess. Okay, Chronicles of a New Era: The Sorrow of Wurlit. Conclusion? Question mark. It must be, unless they add like a final post quest in 5.55. Don't really know how they're dealing with like the 0.55 patch, since this is like the end of an era. With adamantite armor and a beating blood red core, the diamond weapon is the culmination of countless sacrifices and untold suffering. When the ultimate triumph over the 8th Legion's monstrous weapon projects descends upon Wurlit, who will be saved and who shall fall? It is diamond weapon. We've seen this picture. This is old news.
Valen's
And
got
then-
that Xenos armor, by the way.
Oh yeah. And just this very helpful picture of Gaius.
I love this
looking-
picture of guys.
He smelled a fart. He's
looking
like,
cross. Yeah. I really, every time there's a close up of Gaius, I am reminded of how much I hate the third eye. It looks like
What?
something squeezing out of his forehead. Like it really wants to just pop out.
Yeah.
Would you touch it if he asked you to?
Hell yeah.
If he asked me
And
to,
then I
yeah.
would flick my
I'd
finger
be
underneath and try to
curious.
pull it out. Like, pull it out, Gaius.
Oh my god.
Looking at Gaius just reminds me of the fact that we still don't have fucking stubble options for ourselves.
True. Yes. Yes. We never got that, huh?
No.
No.
Been...
We got it teased at the start of freaking Shadowbringers and we still don't have it.
Yeah.
No, it was teasing Stormblood, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
it was.
in 3.5, I think.
Yeah. Yep, there you go. That's it from the website. It's
No, it's not.
Oh, okay. What do you want me to do?
What?
Wait, that was it for the website.
No,
What?
it's not.
No, there's
Another
performance
thing that was
updates.
revealed. No, ignore that. We got the Alliance raid name.
Yeah, okay. The what? Where do you see that?
Oh, they removed it.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's not on the website.
That's interesting. We did have they did reveal what the Alliance raid is. I don't know if they did that purposefully. because it's
There
not here
seems-
anymore. They
there
edited it.
seem-
They removed it.
There
Oh.
seems to be a lot of fucking around with this patch reveal for some reason. I don't think they meant to reveal the patch art originally, because they tried to pull that as well, and then they were like, well, they've seen it now. I mean,
Should we say the name of it?
fuck it. It was out there for a while.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, we can talk about it. If
Uh,
they didn't intend for that to be revealed, that's
Poo-poo
That's on
on
them,
you.
unfortunately.
Well, if you
Fucked
don't
up.
want to hear it, mute it right now, and then I'll do this when we're done talking about it.
Okay.
Okay, from now, it is the tower
Oh
from
my
the end of
God.
Nier. So from Automata.
Mhm.
So
See
that's
Popolo and Devila.
yeah, that's pretty hype.
Mhm.
It's kind of not a surprise. Sort of expected that, but still cool. It was a cool part of the game.
I'm trying to find the specific name they gave it, because they gave it a very long-winded name.
Right. So yeah, it did have a long name. Okay, I guess there's not much else to say other than that's the name of it. We know where we're going.
Yeah.
Not a surprise. All right.
If you know Nier, it's the cool thing. If it's whatever.
All right. Well, even if you had everything muted, I think chat has already fucked it up for you. So I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Okay. Let's. That's it. That's it for recent events. That's the website. Yeah. There you go.
Hype. The live letter soon.
Live letter is next Friday.
An impossible
right.
time.
We haven't planned this correctly, so I will. So okay,
You know,
we'll get
you
back to
have-
that. I was just gonna announce
mention
it.
this beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. Well.
we have something to tell you afterwards, Roller.
Yeah.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
Do you? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. All right. Main story. Let's jump in to part 2 of the localization team interview. The first part was quite interesting, but now it's gonna get more interesting. What a tease! You don't want to go
the
anywhere.
German accent. People demand it.
No.
I'm not doing the German accent. I mean, out of all of us, I am the one who is the most allowed to do it, but I still don't want to. That was what Rollo just froze with that smile for so long. I'm like, you really like that idea. All right, we will just continue where we left off. Here we go. While most RPGs, so we're just just to refresh everyone's memory, we're talking. The interviewees are Catherine Hwinar. It's a Welsh name, or I think it's a Welsh name. So I'm sorry. Lore consultation and English translator. There's Pierre Pasquier or Pasquier, Pasquier. French translator. I'll call you Pierre. David Fehrmann is the German translator. And Naoki Yoshida, which is the localization project manager. All right, there we go. That's all the names. While most RPGs have many NPCs with any number of lines, a world the size of 14 entails a massive number of NPCs to match. Are there any methods or tools the localization team uses to keep track of and organize all that dialogue? Again, a task that I cannot imagine how difficult it would be, or how tedious it must be to keep track of all this.
That's your 9 to 5. You got to remember when that cat girl said the thing.
Yes. Kate, lore, English. Our translation tool does allow us to search by character, thankfully, but a lot of the consistency in characterization comes down to old-fashioned human work. Usually when we're writing a character, we search them up and read a bunch of their old text to remember how their speech sounds. If it's a character we're not particularly familiar with, We'll get one of the translators who has done a significant amount of work with that character in the past to check our translations and point out any elements we might be missing. Oh, they're thorough though. I like that there's like they're not
Have a
just
database.
yeah, and like they read their old text. So if there's like an NPC that they haven't used in a while, they will actually go through the effort of like reading their old text to like figure out like how does this person speak? What's their speech pattern?
I mean,
It's pretty consistent.
definitely
Too.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I had a very rudimentary version of this when we were playing Final Fantasy VIII.
Yes. Do you? Well, I feel like we were. I feel like even though we did try to keep track. If you look, here's a fun task for you all. When 8 is done, the playthrough, watch like the first 2 episodes, listen to the voices, and then listen to the voices again at the end, because we have definitely slipped into something else by the end. I agree. I'd say, to be kinder to us, they're more refined at the end.
Yes. I was going to say that, because in our defense, listen to the first season of The Simpsons and then the latest, and you'll notice a refinement in their voices as well.
Yes. All right. Do you have any favorite characters, either from a translation perspective or just personal preference? Pierre, French. From a translation perspective, I like characters with not necessarily a lot, but a strong personality, like Magnai, Asahi, or Emmett Selk. We have to write a lot of exposition in a game because the point is to share all those tidbits of lore and story with the players. Having a character with a particular way of addressing you makes listening to him or her less tedious. Personally now, I think my favorite is Emmett Selk because in all his Asianness, he was the most human character of all. I also like characters that have gone through a complete story arc and matured/evolved because of that experience, like Alphino or Fordola.
Fordola?
Yeah.
I mean, more in the little short story they put out for Fordola.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Remember how
also,
that was the end of her story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Asahi, for the majority of the time he was alive, had a strong personality.
Yeah, he did. He definitely. Remember when he first revealed?
Maybe.
No. It was a strong moment, at least.
No. Well, yeah. All right. David, German. No, I will not do the accent. Apart from the brilliant Emmett Selk, with all his human flaws, I have become very fond of Elidibus, both text-wise as well as the voice actor, who filled the role with so much power and emotion. A very powerful villain to our heroes, while outwardly deadly determined to fulfill his duty to his people, who is in truth torn by an inner conflict. Kate says, loving a character definitely makes them more fun to translate. And like everyone else, I adore Emmett Selk. I only did a bit of his dialogue in the 5.0 main scenario, but I was fortunate enough to translate the short story Ere Our Curtain Falls, and he really is a delight. I also like characters that are a little bit ridiculous, which puts Gyat up near the top of my list.
Yeah.
Gyat. Gyoshin and Sigetsu, the Enlightened, from the Namasu crafting quests are my personal favorites too, though. Sorry, two. Though if I've done my job right, they're more than a little bit ridiculous. True.
Sigetsu is a great character.
Yeah, that's the
very handsome.
Yeah, the handsome. God, remember Yoshi-P just used to throw that around where he's like, if you look at this one, like just shows the fucking catfish whose eyes are slightly different. It's like, he's a little handsome. It's a cat. What are you on about?
You just don't understand. You haven't seen The Shape of Water.
Oh God, please.
I think he has seen The Shape of Water. I have
seen The Shape of Water.
You do understand.
And my opinion remains unchanged. No,
I disagree.
We have had this discussion before. I don't find the fish
very attractive.
The fish it's a fish. He's fish.
Are we talking about The Shape of Water monster? It's just the
Yeah, we are talking about the fish creature right now.
Oh,
We're talking about the asset. We're not talking about
Yeah.
Seigetsu the
No.
Enlightened.
Okay.
Seigetsu the Enlightened is not hot either. All right.
How dare you? He's very handsome, just as Byako is very
Well,
handsome.
actually, if we were to line them up, I guess he would be the most handsome of the group.
Yeah.
Because he's the only one that doesn't look like all the others.
Oh yeah, Seigetsu is by far the most handsome Namazu.
Yes. Anyways, on the topic of NPCs, the characters of 14 also speak a variety of dialects. In the Japanese text, there are many tones of voice, sentence-ending suffixes, and so on that don't easily translate into other languages. How does the localization team go about deciding which vernaculars are used by whom in the world of Eorzea? We'd love to hear any specific examples you could share. So
I want them to start poorly translating Japanese phrases like, it can't be helped.
I love how he helped. And by I love him, and I am infuriated when I hear it can't be helped.
This being a This being a fantasy game actually makes dealing with dialects easier, as we only need to worry about the real-world cultural baggage that comes with certain dialects insofar as it's actually serving a purpose, so we can look at each other's characters' manners of speaking holistically. What we do in English is examine what the character's Japanese speech indicates, where they're from, what archetype they fall into, archetype they fall into, that sort of thing. And then consider how a person of similar background and personality would speak in English. Do they use a lot of fancy words? Verily. Or more simple ones? Right. Do they speak in contractions or truncate their words a lot? Do you have any mannerisms or words they like to use, either from their culture or because of their personality? Are they hesitant, direct, long-winded? As for the ever-present ending suffixes, when a single character has a verbal tick like that, it usually indicates some sort of archetype. So we approach it using the method outlined above. Beast tribes are a bit more complicated because they pretty much always get one for the whole tribe. Some translations approach this by just transliterating the Japanese, which works, but only to an extent. It's cute when Mughals say kupo, right? But a lot of these endings are fundamentally indistinguishable in English. They mostly just read as two random syllables. So in effect, all of the beast tribes did that. If all the beast tribes did that, they would all have the same speech pattern. That would be outright annoying with as many tribes as we have in 14, and it wouldn't make each tribe distinct like it does in Japanese. What we do instead, then, is to look at what effect the Japanese pattern is having on the way the sentence sounds. All of the Sahagin sentences starts with the sort of psh sound, for example, which is why in English you get shore walker and such, with the elongation of their sh sounds. The Namasu have a habit of adding p into their sentences, so we looked into how the popping p makes their speech feel choppy and excitable, and went for the abrupt and enthusiastic yes, yes, and no, no in English. A big consideration when deciding what to do with these nowadays is readability, so we try to keep it simple.
What was the verbal tick for the... Fuck, what are they called? Kobolds. Isn't it like they repeat
They repeat a word with two synonyms, synonyms, and then they say the original word again.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
That was very cute.
Yeah.
Surprised I didn't mention that one, but I thought that was one of their better.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. That's interesting. I like the... I guess I haven't read... Well, I obviously haven't looked at the Japanese version of the game. Side note. Isn't it annoying? Like, I have throughout my life as a 14 player, I have tried watching people play 14 for the first time. And it is so annoying. And you know who you are out there. When a new player, I'm calling you out. You know who, you'll know when I say it. And they play through the game, and then they're like, voice acting kicks in, and then there's always someone going, "You're playing the English client? you should change the voices to Japanese, actually, the way it's meant to be played. And they never stop. Throughout the streams that I have watched where someone's enjoying 14 for the first time, you are out there going, you should switch to Japanese. That's actually how it's supposed to be played. That's the real voices. Stop doing that. Let them play in whatever language. Let them play in German if they want to. Who the fuck cares?
I'm sorry, guys. The Japanese voice cast is very good, but I speak English, and I can tell what a weird British accent sounds like compared to like a local one.
Right.
I don't know what the fuck a Kansai accent sounds like in Japanese. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I'm sure some of you will recognize this now. And if you haven't, you will recognize it now in chat when you watch anyone new playing the game, because they are always there, which is very annoying. And I always want to say something, but then I'm like, then
you'll be that guy.
Then I'll be that guy.
Yeah, then you'll be that guy. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I will say something interesting about the alternate, the various language translations. Bismarck has a different voice actor in every language.
That's weird.
Really?
Because
I know.
So you mean like Shadowbringers? Oh, yeah.
Shadowbringers
But
Bismarck.
he speaks Fey. That doesn't make any sense. He like.
Yeah. And the "whoa" sounds very different in every language.
Now I have to change my language.
Now I
and
want to
go.
hear all of the different versions of Bismarck. That's interesting. Why they did that. Huh.
For our YouTube video, every version of
Yes. Oh, okay. Right. We're continuing. David, German. Rather than dialects, we focus on tone of voice instead. So this is the German localization. While not an exact emulation of the Japanese original, we match a character's voice to aspects such as their physique, societal standing, which culture they hail from, and so on, and try to come up with a fitting speech pattern. Speaking of dwarves, the dwarves that were introduced with Shadowbringers serve as a good example of this practice. They have a specific way to greet others, holadrio, or use specific terms to distinguish outsiders, Bartlos, people without dwarven beards. Their culture is about mining and engineering. They relish a good feast. Men and women wear false beards and fancy helmets. They love to ridicule their rival. I just realized I probably read something that's supposed to be in German, and I read it in an English accent. And I'm so sorry, Germany, but that's how it is. They love to ridicule their rival tribes, but they are never vicious or nasty, but light-hearted and positive by nature. All these things you will find reflected in the way they express themselves. Okay. Now the French. Oh, okay. I already see what they're saying here. Okay. A lot of 14 races mirror those of 11. So we... Oh no, I jumped around on the document. Sorry. So we reused the same speech pattern for those. For the new ones, we take inspiration from the Japanese, of course, but also from the characters themselves and the image we have of them. Since 14 is voiced, however, we have to be careful and sometimes even adapt. For instance, the rolling R sound of the Mikote, specific to the French version, has proved to be challenging for actors to pronounce, so we sometimes dial it back. Yes, because Mithra, they speak like they talk like that, and they did that in 1.0, and some A Realm Reborn characters did that in the very early, I think only base game, like A Realm Reborn. There's some of it still survives in the text.
Yeah,
and then they were like,
luckily they didn't.
I think they came to the conclusion that the French are now coming to is like, this will be difficult to voice. So
I think it's very good that they didn't do this with Y'shtola from the very start. They only did it primarily with the Mikote of Forgotten Springs.
Yes.
They're the main culprits I can remember. Maybe the Arcanist Guildmaster does it as well, but I can't remember exactly.
See, I think so. They say that they don't R in Y'shtola does not R in French, and I think that's the same reason that she didn't do it in the English one, is because they knew already back then this is going to be weird for the actors to do, so they didn't. Yeah. Right. Many times a concept that makes total sense in one culture is near incomprehensible outside of its native country and language. Can you give some insight into and or examples of how the localization team approaches content like that? We would very much appreciate if you could include any interesting examples you might have. So Kate, English. The good thing about translating fiction is that stories can be told in a variety of ways, which allows us to be pretty flexible in our approach. Much as with our characterization example above, what we look at with culturally specific elements is their place in the narrative and the purpose they serve. A scene I translated recently, for example, included a fairly common Japanese trope. One character hesitantly asking the other if they could drop the slightly formal san suffix when calling them by their name. We don't use Japanese name suffixes in the English version of 14 at all. They don't convey the same interpersonal nuances to those not familiar with Japanese culture, and there are plenty of suitable ways to express the relationships between characters in English. To keep a long story short and spoiler-free, what this scene is actually doing is demonstrating this character's desire to form a friendship. This friendship echoes an important goal-related partnership the character used to have. So much like the Japanese is having the character ask to be friends in a roundabout way, they express their desire for the same sort of close partnership in English by asking if it's okay to think of the other person's goal as their own, too. What is this referring to?
I mean, they said they don't want to spoil things, so it's possibly something in 5.5.
Ooh, okay. If Japanese flavor is I thought she was just being extra careful for, like, I don't know, who wouldn't...
That's possible. It is possible that that's the case as well. It sounds like something that it sounds like something that Graha would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds familiar at least.
Yeah, I think it's Graha. Okay. If Japanese flavor is significant, as in the country of Hingashi, we will sometimes take the easier approach of transliterating the Japanese word. If you don't know what a mikoshi or a happy is, for instance, you can look that up on the internet and find some pictures of Japanese festivals that will make the Namasu's own festival efforts seem even more entertaining. If you don't, they still have that Japanese culture ring to them. Oh my god. And the in-game context makes clear what they mean. The last party's key, using transliterated Japanese, is a much less fraught decision than it would have been 20 years ago, especially given that everyone playing 14 has internet access by default. But we still take into consideration whether it's going to confuse people or hide a meaning the Japanese scenario meant to get across.
Oh, I love outright Orientalism.
Yes.
It's a very interesting thing to say.
Yeah. That's the sound of the people in the chat that always tells the new people playing to play with the Japanese voices.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Pierre, French. That's the core of the localization work. When it comes to the text, I don't think there are concepts that are so foreign that they can't be explained naturally given enough space. Now, when it comes to graphics, it's something else. For instance, we recently had this scene where you see drunk dwarves. In the original version, their eyes looked like the number 3, which for Japanese people indicates they are dizzy. Since players might not get this reference, we suggested to the development team to use spirals.
In the Japanese version, does it...
No, I think they just changed it completely. Like, they all have...
Okay.
Yeah. Which
I think the number 3 sort of indicated as funny, but I understand that it's a more Japanese concept.
For the more, yeah. Related to what you said, I know what it means, so I would have gotten it. But if I showed that to Vero, which is my, she knows nothing about anything Japanese, she would not. I think she would be like, is there a bug? I think she would. I think that would be very.
There a bug?
There's a bug in the game, Luke. He'll fix it. All right. Related to what you said about carrying over Japanese terms such as, how do you pronounce it? Happy or
happy? Yeah.
Happy directly into English. There are also cases for, for example, the skill pronounced the same as the English invincible in Japanese, being translated as hallowed ground. What is the
so lame.
What is the reasoning behind changing words and titles that are already in English into different English? Also, are there any similar examples in other languages' localizations? So, Kate says, regarding why the English that appears in the Japanese version and the localized English is sometimes different, there are a couple of reasons. One is that the fundamental localization philosophy of 14, as established by Yoshida-san, is that all languages should offer an equivalent experience to the players. If something makes the Japanese audience go, cool, it should not make the English audience go, okay, I guess. Words in foreign languages sound pretty cool. They just do. When anime was taking off in the US, people would say kawaii and neko. Me!
That's you!
She's talking about me!
Wow, Japanese!
Tori! Even though we, of course, already have the words cute and cat. But when you start taking those words and putting them back in the original language, they often sound more boring than anything. That's not going to give the equivalent player experience we're looking for, so we indeed do deviate from the Japanese for this reason sometimes. Another thing that people may not consider, though, is that in some cases, we come up with the English names for things first. Coolness problem solved. But the name might still be difficult for Japanese players to understand, or look like a key smash when transliterated into katakana. So there are cases when the Japanese side is like, cool, English, be a shame if something happened to it. Just as we do at times when localizing Japanese terms. We do try to avoid the scenario of totally different English in different versions of 14 to the extent that we can by discussing names in advance. The Japanese side is quite accommodating and happy to work with our suggestions, and we really do our best not to make more work than is absolutely necessary. But sometimes it's simply not possible to find something that will be clear to Japanese players and sound exciting to English players as well. Yeah, that makes... I mean, Invincible... If Hallowed Ground was called Invincible, it wouldn't be the same. I'd be like,
no.
Invincible. I see. You become invincible.
Popping invincible.
Yeah, I'm poping invincible, everyone. Yeah, I can see that. It's just because in Japanese they will just use words that are cool. English sounds cool.
Like echo.
Yeah. yes. Also, even like when you start a duty, like the text is different on screen because it's in English. We say commence, I think, and in
forwards, Japanese, right?
Yeah, forwards or something in Japanese, which is like, yeah, it's cool. Okay, Pierre, French. There aren't many skills with a French name in the game. But one instance...
Lies.
But one instance... Yeah, that's true, actually. That's a fucking... Have you played Red Mage? But one instance where we had to use another name, even though the original was in French, was for the resource used by dancers, the esprit. That's a word we're already using for the mind attribute. So we needed to come up with something else to avoid confusion. We ended up using fascination. Or fascination. A more common issue for us, though, is that Japanese can draw from any language to create names by transcribing them. We need to make sure each skill's name is unique. But what do you do when the same name shows up twice in Japanese? For instance, once in regular Japanese and once as a transcribed English name. In that case, we use a synonym or a name that conveys the same idea. However, Japanese uses synonyms too, and since it can draw from several languages, we are running out of them much faster. There you go.
The French need help, please.
All right. What about lines you've personally translated? Do you have any you're particularly fond of or remember being especially challenging? Pierre starts. French. It's not one of mine, and we only used it a couple of times in the game, but there's one swear that comes to mind. Oh, I don't want to read French.
Come on, go ahead.
Bon Dieu. No, you know what? I'm going to read it in English. Bons dieux de bon sang de bordel de bombo and boys.
And boys?
Yeah. Bons Jux, de Bonsang, de Bordel, de Bombo, and Boys.
Oh my god.
I am just not.
Lakil, just copy paste it into Google Translate and have Google Translate
Okay.
say it.
All right. Okay. Let's do this. I don't want this. I don't want my French to be out on the internet.
Let's put this in the chat with the space, of course, that comes after the exclamation point.
Someone explained that in a comment last from the
Yeah.
episode.
I was like, that's fucked up.
Well, it makes more sense, I guess, but yeah. French.
Fondu de bon sang de bordel de bombo and bois.
Bois.
Okay. Here we go. Where the fuck are the speakers on this fucking thing?
Bon Dieu de bon sang de bordel de bombo en bois.
Oh boy.
There you go. But I like
Basically the same thing.
the English translation. Goddamn God's wooden bombo brothel. What? But I like Bons Jux de Bonsang de Bordel de Bombo and Boys. I like this one. It's hard to explain the details for non-French speakers, but it's simply a swear word in the world of 14 and contains the 12 and a well-known monster named Bomb. It's definitely one of my favorite dialogues for French. Now for challenging, I would say the Pixies speech pattern. One lore point is that those creatures are agender. We use... Oh, that's difficult in French.
Yeah.
We use a male/neutral agreement for the sylphs back in 2.0, but for the Pixies, we wanted to try something different. Since this gender neutrality is never mentioned in the main story, we didn't want to use special words that would warrant a reaction of surprise from the human characters. And so we thought, what if they never use gender-specific words to refer to themselves? That way, they have this speech characteristic without influencing the flow of the story. We ended up going with this, but soon realized it could sometimes be very hard, even when using a lot of grammatical tricks and epicene words.
I don't know what an epicene word is. I'm
That's
sorry.
Epicene word.
I'm from a
I know
gender.
a lot of terms in relation to grammar, but I don't know what that is.
Having characteristics of both sexes or no characteristics of either sex, or not asexual, gender neutral.
Gender neutral words.
Ungendered.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Right. So Kate says, while I don't regret asking if we could remove them from the gender binary, as it was about time that we established that precedent somewhere, it's a surprise tool that will help us later. Seeing the challenges that presented for other languages has really been eye-opening. I am extremely thankful that our localization colleagues and the event team, members in charge of world lore creation and story, were willing to work with us there. Personally, my favorite translations are the ones where I feel a strong attachment to the story and characters and end up with an English version that I'm confident has the same emotional resonance as the Japanese. One of my favorite sections in that respect is the healer role quests in 5.0. Though I can't quote the lines in the specific, spoilers, there's a scene towards the end of that questline that I found very moving, but it's written to emphasize a turn of phrase that sounds beautiful. What is that word? And...
Elegiac? I've never heard this word either.
In Japanese.
Well, these people really are writers, huh?
Yeah. A lot.
It is. Oh no, that's not it.
Our brains are not big enough for this, it seems.
Sorry, it's us mono language speakers, which I'm assuming we all are, obviously. I'll have you know, it's elegiac.
Okay. What does it mean?
Oh, relating to the characteristics of elegy.
Oh. Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
You know what? Let's look up elegy.
Elegy means?
I don't know. I never heard of it. It's a poem, I guess, for the dead.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, beautiful. And how did you pronounce it?
Elegiac, apparently.
In Japanese, and clunky and emotionless when rendered directly into English. I spent quite some time laboring over that one, and I'm pretty proud of how I eventually captured the meaning and emotion of the scene. And players have responded well to those quests too, which makes me extra happy. All right, there you go. Something else we find interesting is how things like patch names are often not direct translations, but rather tend to be translated in ways that vary significantly from the original Japanese. We especially like the English word choice for patch 3.1, as goes light, so goes darkness, with the original Japanese has a meaning closer to the boundary between darkness and light. How does the localization team go about deciding those kind of translations? Do localizations outside of English also follow similar methods? For example, choosing translations that better evoke the story of a patch for the target culture? Kate, okay, yeah. I feel like that answer is quite obvious, but it's okay. Well, here's the answer. Kate, English. You may be surprised to learn that the English and Japanese titles are decided at the same time. Each patch, the main scenario writer will send a brief summary of what happens with the story and characters along with their ideas for Japanese titles to the English localization team. We then reply with our English suggestions, created through the power of brainstorming terrible ideas until eventually a good one falls out, which utilize the same themes and or keywords as the Japanese. These can be close translations of the Japanese, but they aren't necessarily. So we add explanations of what each suggestion is meant to convey and literal Japanese back translations as needed. Then Yoshida-san takes a look, and there's further discussion and brainstorming in one or both languages until we have a pair of titles for Japanese and English that look good for everyone. It's a different localization process than I think people expect or are used to, but we don't want to present the audience with something they can't get excited about. Okay, makes sense. Not really that surprising, but it's cool. Pierre says, patches and expansions only have names in Japanese and English. The only time a patch name appears translated into French is once in the related special site and once as a quest name in the main story of that patch. And in that case, we try not to stray too far away from the English so that people understand the reference. Interesting that they translated it all. If the official title is English, that they still find it necessary to translate it on the special site. And obviously the quest name I get at the end, because every quest ends with the quest name. I can see that, because otherwise it'll be very jarring in-game for that to just suddenly be in English. Okay. The localization team is also responsible for conveying the words of Final Fantasy XIV's creator, such as Yoshida-san, to fans outside of Japan, at events and otherwise. Is there a unique approach you take to that kind of translation? David, German. As opposed to in-game translation, we go to great lengths to stick as closely to the Japanese as possible. The letters from the producer are phrased very carefully and edited many times so that the right message is being conveyed, and we are trying to stick very closely to the source text. Pierre, French. It's very important to convey not only what they precisely mean, but also their sentiments, and to understand the state of mind of the people who will read those words. This is something we always do, even in the game, of course, but we have to be especially aware of this when we translate texts from people working on the game and addressing the players. Kate, English. Yes, I think something that often gets overlooked in translation in this sort of communique, primarily because people are scared to death of being accused of mistranslating the words of important people, is the tone of the message and the fact that the creator is a, human person. So we make sure to get across not just what the creators are saying, but Yoshida-san's coolness and professionalism, and Soken-san's casual attitude and offhand expertise in all things musical and the like. Okay, makes sense. I don't think I've ever had a situation where a translation of a live letter has... Well, actually, we have had that. I have vague memories of like early days of live letters where maybe they weren't that... where maybe they fucked up. I believe a few live letter... Sorry, is it no, not live letters. Just letters that are posted on the Lodestone. Those in the early days, they weren't always perfectly translated, and I remember having angry posts on the forum because of mistranslations, because people thought something else was happening. Okay. Yes. So, lastly, could you please let us hear any words you have for the fans?
So, Pierre, French. We'd like to thank all of you. Some of you just discovered 14. Some of you have been playing since 1.0, or maybe even since 11. Final Fantasy... Me again.
They're talking to you.
The French are talking to me. Final Fantasy XIV wouldn't have grown to become such a massive and rich world without your support. By the way, if you have any suggestions or anything to say about the French version, please use the feedback section of the forum. We might not. I'm gonna leave some feedback in the French forum.
Really?
Yeah.
What insightful feedback do you have for the French translators?
You know, I have the following: Bon Dieu, de bon sang, de bordel, de bombo, and boys. That's what I have to say. By the way, if you have any... Sorry, that was that. We might not be able to answer very quickly, but we read every message posted there and take your opinions into account. I can feel the anger from the French when I read that line. Lastly, did you know the Lodestone has a lot of short stories that expand on the 14 lore? I've found that it's often overlooked, so be sure to check them out if you'd like to know more about the game story. David, German. I would like to extend my praises and thanks to the community on taking interest in the localization and going at lengths to report localization bugs in our official forums. This is greatly appreciated, and I can assure our fans that we are watching the threads and fixing as many as we can. Our replies can sometimes take a while, depending on the stage of the development cycle, but we try to answer all of them eventually. Thank you! Danke schön. There you go. Kate, English. What they said, I can also tell you that we definitely check the Final Fantasy XIV subreddit and even see stuff on Twitter sometimes. So if you've...
I'm so sorry.
So if you've ever posted about a line you thought was funny or anything like that, you probably made our day. Having so many people interested in the story, lore, and even the localization itself really makes us feel our work is appreciated. And we're so glad that you love Final Fantasy XIV as much as we do. Thank you so much, and see you in-game. Oh, by the way, Maki was also here.
I know, I was going to say.
Throughout this entire interview, but they appear at the end. We truly appreciate all of our players for playing Final Fantasy XIV and for being so supportive of the localization team. You may or may not know where the language settings in the game are offhand, but I suggest that you try them out sometime to play through a voiced cutscene or battle in a language you've never tried before. It's super easy to change the audio from the config. They're one of them. They're one of them. This
Just
is
like the world visit.
No. This is one of the people in the Twitch chat. This is exact line. I see you, Maki. Okay, so you can even keep... it's super easy to change the audio from the configuration menu, so you can even keep the text from your own language and switch to different voiceovers for a day. Japanese day, English day, French day, German day. Make your own little holidays. Each language version is still the same 14 you know and love, but you'll find it interesting how that world comes alive when different cultural and linguistic expectations are at play. I plan to continue doing my utmost with all of the strategies at my disposal to support our dedicated translators in delivering their best work. So I hope that you'll keep playing and come along for the journey to wherever Final Fantasy XIV leads. Mm-hmm. I really want to play Final Fantasy XIV with German. I just think that would be funny. I'm European, I can say that. That's like my shield every time I make fun of a European country. Yeah.
I think it'd be funny to do it in French. A little tiny bit of French I know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm fluent in it, as you all know.
I just think European languages are so funny. Don't worry, I dated a European person. I can say it.
Okay. As a European person, I will accept that, and you are approved.
Thank you. I got the pass.
Okay. Right. Let's move on to that was a very good interview. I like, again, I've said this before, but I like hearing interviews with people we don't hear from very often. And this obviously, yeah, go on, Rolla.
Remember the economy guy? He was pretty interesting.
Yes. I still remember. I wish we heard more from him, because the economy in 14 is interesting.
Intriguing.
Yeah.
I want to hear him talk about the economy as it relates to the people who had money from 1.0 and then
Yes.
the transition to 2.0.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right. So let's jump into this will be the last interview.
Yes.
Interview with Naoki Yoshida done by Games. Sorry, the previous interview was by Final Fantasy Portal, that weird website. This next one is from Games Radar, and it's with Naoki Yoshida.
Well, it was posted on Games Radar. It's actually from the official PlayStation magazine,
which Games Radar is publishing. It was it's very strange. We thought they were just quoting an interview from a different magazine, but no. Games Radar is publishing the official PlayStation magazine.
Yes.
Who knew? Now you all know. All right. This is about Final Fantasy 14, bringing 14 Endwalker to PS5. So here we go. Square Enix is about to bring Final Fantasy into the next generation. On April 13th...
Probably can skip this part.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. This is just a reminder that with the next patch, the open beta will open on the PS5, which will feature improved frame rate, faster load times, 4K resolution support, and more. All right.
By the way, Lakil got a PS5. Or he will be getting a PS5.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, I already have it now.
Congrats.
You already have it?
Yeah. It arrived today.
Wow.
Does it smell like exclusivity? Is it special?
It was like, I got it, and then I'm like,
You already regretting it?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm like, did I need this really?
Man fought so hard to get
need it.
PS5.
I just panicked when it just appeared and it was in stock, and I'm like, this is like that chance you have, because I know if I linger for more than 10 seconds, it's sold out. So I just got it, and then afterwards, and then it just arrived the next day. It was so jarring. It's so quick. Didn't get delivered by the Norwegian Postal Service. It was by a private company, and it just arrived. Criticism. And then I had it. I'm like, oh, I have the PS5. Guess I'll install all my PS4 games.
You can play the Tomb Raider game.
Actually, Rollo, this is exciting. Tomorrow, Sunday Fun Day, we're gonna play the Resident Evil demo, the Village demo.
Oh, okay.
That's something.
Excited.
And Village releases on May 7th, so we can play that now on stream. So that's exciting.
We get to see Lakil struggle with playing FPS with a controller again.
True. I am really bad at it. I played the. This is a side note. We can talk about this in the post show. We don't have time for this.
Yeah.
All right. Let's jump into the interview with Naoki Yoshida. Okay. Last time an expansion was announced, I was watching from. This is the interviewer. Last time an expansion was announced, I was watching from a huge crowd in Las Vegas. For obvious reasons. This wasn't possible this time around. How did you find the change in pace with the Endwalker announcement? Yoshida says, so actually, to be honest, you may be aware actually, but we actually, oh god, a lot of actually, but we actually
I know.
hired out a cinema for this announcement. And at the time, we really did want the fans to be there. We wanted the fans to actually come and participate in the announcements. But as you might already know, the state of emergency was announced in Tokyo, and that unfortunately put a spanner in the works. That really wasn't good for our plans, so we knew that there was this risk involved, and it was kind of unfortunate that did have an impact on the way that we were able to make the announcement. You know, all of the fans were sending their responses and being so vocal in their support. That was really huge for us. We could really feel the response from the fans. I think the fans were really there to help us in this situation. When we look at how we would do it usually, at a keynote in the FanFest, with all of the reaction that we get from the players, in a way, it was actually the same thing that we experienced on our digital channels, on the 3 streaming channels that we had. All the responses that we were getting from our players really seemed the same. I personally feel it was a very positive response. Having said that, though, it is true that I went a bit over time, and we did go over the schedule. But I think it was a great response, yeah. I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's bad that you went over schedule. That's good. Longer. Good.
Just to make sure that it's not longer because you're talking about the world visit.
Right. Yes. Please keep this in mind for the upcoming live letter. We do not want to sit through 2 hours of you talking about the expanded world this system that's coming, the data center travel. Don't need that. Don't need that, Yoshi-P. Just a quick slide, just like that. Fuck, I've done it, haven't I? I have.
You've already jinxed it.
God damn it. In a way, actually having this reaction over the digital channels was helpful in some aspects. For example, if you're actually there in the event and you just hear people clapping and you know they're shouting and expressing that emotion, that's good. But I don't really get a clear view into what specifically they're really thinking. Like, what points they want to know more about, or what points they are really happy about. So actually, by having them communicate with me directly, I can actually see what they're writing, and really what points they're particularly vocal about. That's a good point. He could see it like in clear text. Yeah.
Yes. Can I quickly say, so all the FanFests were stopped because of COVID.
Yes.
They have, in the last week, I think, either in the last week or they announced that they're going to do this, they have started releasing the tickets to go see the next FanFest live.
Yes.
I don't know about that, Chief.
I don't know because some countries are getting better, and we're not going to linger on this for too long, but I don't know. How is Japan doing? Are they in the... Bad? So they're
bad?
Not well.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's not a good idea then. All right, I see. Okay, moving on. Endwalker is bringing the story arc started in A Realm Reborn to a close. Why was now the time to do it? Yoshida says, to put a conclusion to this ongoing saga in Final Fantasy XIV, the Hydaelyn Zodiark saga was actually something that we decided quite a while ago.
It was actually a lot.
Yes. To put it simply, if we take an example of a TV... Yoshi-P, I know...
Reset the clock.
Here we go again. If we take an example of a TV drama, if we're just dragging out the story and people don't want to watch it, then of course that's not going to do us any good. Maybe, for example, we get up to the fourth season, but then, okay, we decide to continue the fun until the 6th season, or the 8th season maybe, and people would be really sick of it, you know? They really wouldn't be able to stand it anymore. So there was kind of a sense that we shouldn't really drag this on for no reason at all, because it really would be too much for the viewers to take. I can see that. But of course, on the other end of the spectrum, we actually need Final Fantasy XIV to be a success to continue. So, you know, a Final Fantasy XIV...
Really?
If Final Fantasy XIV isn't a successful title, then actually the company will tell us that we have to stop working on this game. So it is important to ensure the future of the title. So it's very similar, again, to a TV drama. If the first season of the TV drama is not successful, then you won't have the second season or the third season. 14 is proving that to be wrong, but all right.
I was going to say, yeah. It's not necessarily true for this game.
No. So in the same way, actually, we needed to make sure that Final Fantasy XIV had a stable basis for success. In terms of the timing, for us, it was around Stormblood when we actually felt, now we have a sense that, you know, Final Fantasy XIV's success is going to prosper in the long run. It was really around that time that actually we were thinking that we should cleanly finish off the Hydaelyn Zodiark saga, maybe in patch 6.0 or 7.0. But it was around that time that we were thinking about this. It was actually for a reason you might know as well, but in the 2018 FanFest, I actually asked the players where they wanted to go, and some players said the moon. And I said, half-jokingly, maybe in 7.0. But this is actually the reason for that. We did actually have that already in mind back then. I hope you like the word actually. Take a shot every time Yoshi-P says actually.
Don't do that.
But if you actually ask them why 6.0 instead of 7.0, that was okay. Now it's ridiculous. That was actually due to the impact of Shadowbringers. So of course, all of the fans really enjoyed Shadowbringers so much. Seeing their response, we wanted to keep the momentum going. So I actually decided that it would be better that we actually round off the Heidel and shit. I shouldn't have said anything. Round off the Heidel and Zodiac story in 6.0 because we can keep that momentum and we can have the players even more excited. But still, in terms of the volume, there was enough volume to actually incorporate that into 6.0. So that was really the direction we went in. Yeah.
So, is this pulled directly from official PlayStation magazine? Because if that's the case, they need to hire some editors.
I agree. I agree.
Just clean up. I know it's hard work, but you just gotta clean up a little tiny bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's an unnecessary word. You can remove it most of the time.
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to quote them like. It doesn't have to be verbatim. It doesn't have to. You can clean up the language a little. It's fine. Are you hoping that with the Heidel and Zodiac arc?
Sorry, I'm already looking at the next sentence.
Yeah, I saw it too. Are you hoping that with the Heidel and Zodiac arc concluding, it'll provide an opportunity for new players to jump in?
Can I quickly say, I am so glad that we are at the end of people having to say Zodiac arc.
Oh yes, yes.
Really gotta have the phlegm out of your throat for that one.
Yes. Well, Yoshi-P says, actually, that's something that's been asked by quite a lot of media outlets. But I don't personally think that with ending the Heidel and Zodiac story, our goal in mind is getting new players in. That's actually not an aim here. So again,
yeah, don't cut them out. Don't.
No.
I'm
leaving all of them in here. Yeah. So
yeah, I know.
My brain is already trying to jump over them. So again, you can actually think of it as a TV drama. What? Again? This is the third time, Yoshi-P. Of course, as the TV drama gets more seasons in there, you're still going to have the same cast. So I think that people, if anything, I want people to see it from the start. Basically, they can actually have a look at this, maybe 6.0, and they can think about it. Oh, wow, Final Fantasy XIV is such an amazing game. I really want to experience this, and it would be great to experience that from the start. Of course, it really wouldn't make much sense if they just enter halfway through and you've got all of these characters who, of course, they don't really know. So if anything, it would be great that they actually see the appeal of Final Fantasy XIV, and I think that it's appealing to new players in the respect that, you know, they would think, oh, yeah, I really want to get stuck in and get started from the beginning to really experience the whole great story that we have to offer. So yeah, if anything, it would be great that new players join and start playing from the start to really experience the great story.
I mean, I agree.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. I want to say one thing, since it's bringing up the TV dramas thing, that people don't want like this long overarching story or this long story arc, is don't fall into, I hope, he loves Game of Thrones. We know that. Let's draw a parallel to that. Went on for a very long time, and then they were like, we need to stop this. And then it didn't end well. I hope that's not where we're going. If we want to draw TV show parallels, Yoshi-P, actually. There's actually an interesting example of this. There's actually a trend for people to be pulling away from the TV. So they're actually becoming more interested in personal things, which they find appealing. And they're actually getting more engaged into those activities.
Are you actually adding more?
No!
No,
he's not.
Okay. This was a bit for a second.
This is real.
Oh my god.
You can take an example of, in Japan, there's a really popular, like, it's written... It sounds like he's just put Siri on to just note down what's being said. Like, this sounds like this is weird. You can take an example of, in Japan, there's a really popular franchise now called Demon Slayer. You might be aware. It was a huge hit in
It's
Japan.
one of the biggest anime of all time right now.
And now it's also spreading across the globe. So actually, the interesting thing about that was that it was a manga, and an anime as well was adapted from that. But it was actually interesting that it only became a hit after the manga had been completed. So then people got into it after the completion of the story, and then they could actually see the appeal of it. I think it's a similar thing for Final Fantasy XIV. So, you know, the 6.0 story, people aren't really going to be interested about joining just to experience that. But because it will be so interesting, we really hope that people will actually join in and actually experience the story right from the start.
This is a joke?
No. So even in the case of Demon Slayer, I personally actually heard about it when it was becoming a very big trend and people were saying, oh yeah, you've got to watch it. But I actually started watching the anime. And then I could see, oh yeah, this is awesome. This is great.
This is actually awesome.
So I think it's just perfect. It parallels the situation that we have here in Final Fantasy XIV. Really, it would be great that people get stuck into the game, then actually really experience it from the start.
No, stop.
Oh my god.
It's interesting.
The word is losing all meaning.
It is. It stopped being a word for me. Okay. New question. The PS5 beta. Okay. We will not comment on the actually from starting now. Okay. We will just have it. This is happening. All right.
Okay.
We'll read it.
It's actually happening?
Professional now. We're just reading. It's actually happening now.
Okay. It's actually.
The PS5 beta is coming very soon, perhaps sooner than expected. Was it important to have that version ready as soon as possible? Yoshida says, I'm just providing you an honest answer as a producer's point of view. When the new hardware is out, there's not many launch titles available. In the market, when new hardware is there's not much to play, right? It's also the case for the industry in general. Other companies are seeing what could be the benchmark, what could be the quality that the players will want, and what will be the loading speed. How will that be optimized with the new hardware? When the new hardware is launched, it will also attract new people in to play the games that are available. For example, we will be releasing the PS5 version as open beta, and the PS4, PS5 version's free trial is available now, where players can play up until level 60, and there's so many things on offer in the game. So because there are not many games available for the new hardware, why don't you just try out the PS5 version of Final Fantasy XIV, get the hang of it, just to see what this game offers in the free trial. Then you can just wait until the triple odd way to write that. They wrote triple and then 3 A's. The triple A, big blockbuster titles come up in the market, and then you can try those new ones. So, you know, we just wanted to keep the momentum from the start. Actually, the start is a good chance for us to attract new people to get them on the trial for Final Fantasy XIV before everyone comes in with a PS5 edition of their games.
I want to say, I thought we were going to get through an answer without actually.
Yeah, I thought so too. Okay.
So we're going to comment about it. Come on.
All right. Here we go. As an MMO developer, what he said was, just reminded me of the PS5 I have that I don't understand why I have.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's talking to you.
Yeah. As an MMO developer, what's excited you the most about working with the PS5 hardware? Yoshida says, so really, as an MMO developer, the two big things that really appeal from this hardware is, first of all, the memory size. There's a huge increase in the memory size, so that's very helpful for us in developing the title. And also, there's much faster loading speeds. Those two things, really, I think they're also things that the players can really imagine would make an impact on their gameplay experience. That's true. I mean, it's going to be quite revolutionary for console players to just zone in almost immediately when teleporting or entering a duty.
Than a lot of PC players.
Yes. You're in a unique position with Final Fantasy XIV, having even been on PS3. How does spanning hardware generations affect how you approach iteration? Yoshida says, so first, it really goes back to the design stage. As you know, with the original Final Fantasy XIV, unfortunately, it was a failure. And we actually had to overhaul that, really rework it from the ground up for A Realm Reborn. But when we were actually doing the design work for A Realm Reborn, we were working on the engine, and one of our goals was that it would actually run on low-spec PCs across the world. But at the same time, we also had a goal in mind that we wanted to ensure that there was no loss in the graphical quality, which people expect from a Final Fantasy title. Really, it was making sure that both of those things go hand in hand and actually work together. So those were actually the 2 points that we were really working on when we were approaching the design for the engine. But with the Final Fantasy XIV engine, we actually designed it so that it would be scalable. So based on the hardware that's used, you might be able to increase the number of characters on the screen, or decrease the characters, or actually increase the rendering area, or decrease the rendering area. Or decrease the rendering area, sorry. In that respect, we had a scalable engine in place we had prepared. But unfortunately, we were actually at a bit of a disadvantage with the PlayStation 3 architecture, because the PS3 architecture was quite unique. Unfortunately, that forced us to undergo various tuning costs. That was a bit of extra work on our side to accommodate, but things actually improved with the PlayStation 4. As you know, Sony actually incorporated architecture which is based around the PC configuration. So actually, that makes our job much easier. Using our scalable engine, we can optimize the title on the PS4, which was a much easier process compared to PS3. Now that we have this kind of framework in place, when we have new hardware introduced, it's actually relatively easy for us to actually expand the title and actually deliver the title on that hardware. There you go. That's interesting.
Something that's interesting is, isn't it fascinating that 11 only spanned one console, whereas now 14 has gone through 3?
True. Yeah.
And we don't think about 11 being a long-running franchise, and yet, well, we do. But, like, it's interesting that it didn't
I wonder.
end up getting transferred over to any other console.
Yeah, I do wonder why that didn't happen. 11 has always been a very profitable game for Square Enix, so I don't see why they didn't do it. But I think in the end, the amount of players playing on PC was just so much higher than the PlayStation players.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah.
They should have put it on the Vita. I would have loved it.
That's not actually a bad idea
No,
for 11. But they would need some really... They needed to change that UI quite a bit, because that's some tiny little bars even on a PC. Like, I don't know how you would be able to navigate that on a Vita.
Have you seen the amount of, like, this is sort of an aside, but the amount of versions of Dragon Quest X?
No.
There's a lot.
Are there?
It's on the 3DS. It's on the original Wii. I think it's on the Wii U. Was it on the Vita too? It was on PC too, of course.
I think it's on the Vita.
Yeah, and it apparently the same game. I don't know.
That's crazy. That is crazy. I don't. Wow. Is that online?
Yeah, that's the MMO.
Was it crossplay?
I don't know if it was.
I don't know if a 3DS player should be able to play with a PC player.
Well,
I agree.
If you've seen how Dragon Quest X plays, it would not matter.
Oh, okay. I guess I don't know how it plays.
Okay.
All right. Also important to note that
PC2.
11 is extra strange because they had one console and then they dropped the console and didn't introduce a new one. So they just decided to just leave the console market, which is interesting. All right. Even after Final Fantasy... Sorry, hold on. Moving on. That's just
a quote for a picture.
Yeah. No other MMO feels as dedicated to console parity as 14. Why has it been so important to keep at that approach? Yoshida says, very simply put, that is because this is Final Fantasy. As you know, spanning over 30 years, maybe 35 years, this franchise has been on consoles. Really, the home of Final Fantasy is on console. Because of that, it's really our duty to ensure that people who are playing on a console really have an experience which is by no means inferior to those playing on PC. So, really, we need to make sure that people really do get the best experience on consoles as well. But actually, you might already know, but personally, I'm quite a big MMO fanboy. I really do like my MMOs. Traditionally, there's been this view that MMOs are a very niche genre, and really hardcore gamers are playing MMOs. I actually wanted to change that outlook. I really wanted to change that perception of MMOs. I wanted to make MMOs more accessible to general gamers. So, in a way, I wanted to make the genre itself more popular. And as a means to that end, obviously providing the title on the consoles was a part of that. People would usually think, oh, if I want to play an MMO, I have to play it on PC. I wanted to change that kind of outlook about it. So actually delivering this on console as well, it played a part in changing the perception of MMOs. But that was actually more a personal kind of goal of mine. There you go. That's, I guess that's also kind of why 11 died on console, is that it was on console, but for no real good reason. Because 11 is really a hardcore, like old style MMO that I had 11 on PS2, but I quickly converted to PC because it wasn't great.
Didn't you? Most people who did play it on PS2, didn't they use like the keyboard plugin or whatever?
Yeah,
because it was impossible otherwise.
Oh God, just I would anyone go on YouTube and just look up like PS2 like gameplay footage for Final Fantasy XI, and just feel their pain. Like little tiny Lukiel was playing that game. You don't know the definition of lost until you've like booted up Final Fantasy XI on the PS2. All right. As game development gets bigger and more complicated, the gaps between numbered Final Fantasy games get wider. But Final Fantasy XIV always remains ongoing with updates. Does that create more pressure and responsibility, considering it's a very visible part of the series? With respect to the Final Fantasy franchise, I don't actually feel any responsibility. Really, when I think about it from the player's perspective, there's kind of like a pressure for us to deliver a new experience with the new patches and with the new expansions. So in that respect, yeah, there is a responsibility that we have to really deliver the best experience for the players. But with respect to the Final Fantasy franchise in general, I don't truly feel responsible for that, because Final Fantasy XIV is just a title in itself. So I don't really feel responsible for the franchise. But of course, it is important that we deliver the best experience for people who are playing Final Fantasy XIV. It's interesting that he looks at it that way, which I don't know. It's sort of the reason why this game exists in its current iteration was to save the Final Fantasy franchise. So maybe he's changed over time. I guess that I do agree though. That's what makes Final Fantasy a good franchise, is that each game is its own game. So they don't, If anything continues a previous Final Fantasy game, it's officially a spin-off. It is not part of the main line. Yeah. So yeah, I do like that. But of course, I am the producer of Final Fantasy XVI. So with respect to that title, of course, I really do want to be able to deliver that title quickly to the Final Fantasy fans, so they have a new title to play. But even when we release Final Fantasy XVI, that's not going to be the end of 14. We're still going to be working on 14 and trying to deliver new experiences for our player base on 14. We really do want those great experiences to continue on this title. We really will be putting in all of our best efforts to make sure that 14 continues and people will be able to have a great time playing the title. But as you actually touched upon, because we're constantly updating 14, even after 16 is released, we'll be releasing more content updates on 14. In that respect, 14 is, in a sense, the latest Final Fantasy. So we will continue work on delivering those content updates, because 14 does have that standing in the franchise. We will be continuing our best efforts on this title. So if you were... He has really hammered it home, guys. There is more content to come after 16. They will continue working. If you ever doubted, they will continue working on this title.
You think we'll ever get to Final Fantasy 21? Is that what I think? The one in Deus Ex that shows up?
Isn't that like 30? Isn't it like Final Fantasy like XXX?
I really hope whenever that game comes out, if it ever does, it's just that from fucking Deus Ex.
Well, yeah. So continue our best efforts on the title. Until the number will seem old. Then we could change the number maybe. How about Final Fantasy 20? That would have a good ring to it for a while at least. That will keep us ahead of the game. All right. You're also involved in Final Fantasy 16, and it seems like a lot of Final Fantasy fans were pleased to hear your involvement. You and the team have built a lot of trust with players, and you even said at the reveal event you're committed to Final Fantasy 14 as your life's work. Do you think that open communication with the fans is a part of the Final Fantasy 14 success story? Yoshi-P says, yeah. And so, actually, in a sense, having people that need you, that actually is important, I feel. It might be the company, you know, they say, oh man, without you, we cannot make this game. We really need you to be there for us. And in the same way, that actually applies to the fans as well. If there are fans there and they say, we really want you to be working on this title, that is really assuring and really comforting. In a way, that serves as a motivation for me to aim for higher places, you know, to really aim for the better things, provide better experiences. So in that sense, yes, having someone there that actually wants your support and wants you to be working on this, that actually helps me get my motivation and to deliver something really special and to continue working on this franchise. In that sense, that is important, yeah. But really, in the case of an MMO, it doesn't really have to be an MMO for any title that you're actually having on as a live service over a long time span. It's not really a peachy experience to support that title for such a long time. You know, you need engineers working on it, and you need to be constantly providing new updates for it. So in that sense, it's a tough experience to be constantly working on it. But since the fans are there and, you know, have been able to cultivate this relationship with the fans, and we do have a sense of trust with our fans over these 10 years, that really does play a big part. That really is motivating for us to continue working on this title. Of course, it will be a different story if they don't want to continue on this ride together, but as long as the fans really continue to express their support, that's really assuring, and we can leverage our trust with the fans and continue providing an amazing experience by working on this title. God, he really repeats a lot of lines that mean the same thing. He does.
I think you could edit this interview to be like half the length that it is.
Yes. Yes.
Reading this is like massaged my brain.
It's very yeah. They clearly just noted like word for word what he said and not edited it at all. How can they put this in print? This is a printed magazine, by the way.
Yeah.
I hope they had a different editor for the printed version that could fix this.
And yes, thank you, chat, for letting us know that there are 69 actuallys in this article.
Really? I retract my previous statement. This is a great article. This article is the best article. Okay. That's all we have time for, unfortunately. We have to go into post-show now. But that is the interview. That was by Game Reactor, aka Final Fantasy Magazine. Sorry, PlayStation Magazine. Well, yeah. Actually, it's time to wrap up. Thanks for watching. We'll read. Oh God, Mogmail. Well, that's how it is. We have to do Mogmail. Oh, probably won't have to. You know what we'll do? I think we can do an XL episode next week, and then we'll just do Mogmail at the end, because then we'll have 3 hours, and then we'll do that. Okay, because next week, live letter, make sure you watch that. We will... Do you hear that?
No?
Okay, sorry, motorcycle man just passed by.
Okay.
It's that time again. We'll be back, Friday, live coverage of the live letter. Another announcement will come later about Friday. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. What? Sorry, we'll see you in the post. We'll see you on the post show in a little bit if you're watching live. Thanks for watching. Remember to follow on Twitter at SpeakersXIV, twitch.tv/SpeakersXIV, youtube.com/SpeakersXIV. Send us Mogmail, speakersxiv.com/Mogmail. That's that. We'll see you in the post show if you're watching live. Goodbye.
Bye.